Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Before we formally get started, I just need to remind you that by registering for this event, you agree not to record the event in any way. By registering, you also consent to your personal data and information being held in process as described in our privacy notice, which you can see on christies.com. This event will be recorded by Christie's. All attendees will be muted and remain anonymous. There will be time for questions at the end of the event. However, please feel free to submit questions throughout the conversation using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Okay, welcome everyone to Christie's panel event, Empowering Women in the Web3 World. I'm Nicole, the Business Director for Digital Art and NFTs at Christie's. And as moderator of today's conversation, I am very honored to introduce our esteemed panelists. Yam Karkai is the co-founder of World of Women and is an NFT artist whose art focuses on bringing women into the spotlight. Her art combines vivid, harmonious colors with playful, delicate lines and a touch of fantasy. Her mission has always been to highlight and empower women by making them the center of her pieces. The World of Women NFT number 5672 will be offered in Christie's evening sale in London this coming Tuesday, March 1st. Betty is the co-founder of DeadFellaz, another extremely popular and successful NFT collection. She is a creative producer and leader in the Web3 ecosystem. Welcome, both of you. I'm so honored that you agreed to talk with us today. So,
hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us.
Excellent. Thank you for joining. To start off, I'd love for each of you to just briefly tell our audience a little bit about your projects. Yam, do you want to start off?
Sure. And World of Women began as a NFT collectible project of 10,000 art pieces, but now in the present day, we see ourselves as a community that is united by those 10,000 art pieces, but that shares the same objectives and values for Web3 and in general for women and minorities in society. So we're very united through those two things, and we are really growing together as a community.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really been wonderful to see the growth. Betty?
Yeah, so DeadFellaz is a project that I started last year with my husband, Syke. He's the co-founder and artist. It came really from a desire mostly to be represented. I didn't see much at the time that was representative of what I wanted to use as a profile picture. It was either, you know, in a lot of collections, it was quite stereotypical and just not what I wanted. I didn't really see anything that was ambiguous to gender, so I wanted that also to be quite a focus of the collection, and just playing on pop culture and movies, animation, TV shows, all of those things, to bring that to like a playful collection that you see now with DeadFellaz. Yeah, it's been fun. We've been going, I think it's just over 6 months now, which is like years in NFT time.
Yeah, years and years. It's crazy. I think, yeah, and I think, Yam, yours also launched in the summer of last year, correct?
Yes, we launched at the end of July.
Great. Yeah, so definitely years in crypto terminology.
Absolutely.
So Yam, the World of Women lot that Christie's is selling on Tuesday was decided by a community vote on social media. Can you talk to our audience about that process and why that was so important to you?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God, that was like so exciting. Of course. Yeah, so basically what we did is that we narrowed it down to a few World of Women that we thought were quite cool looking, and then we had our community vote for the one that they felt represented them the most to be at Christie's, because we didn't want to take such a big decision on our own. We wanted it to be a community effort, and so we did the voting process through our DAO. And everybody, actually the votes were quite balanced for all of the wows that we put out there, but a beautiful tuxedo lady ended up winning. It was an incredible experience. I mean, people were, our community was so engaged and intrigued and interested, and they were wondering which one would be the best. And it was like a whole initiative and movement thing that was going on both on Discord and on Twitter. So it was extremely exciting and kind of emotional for a lot of us. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really so remarkable to see from the Christie side too. It was so great. And I loved seeing all the pink tuxedos, the pink suits too. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it?
That was so surprising. I did not expect that. There was a community member that started creating these pink tuxedos, and she ended up working, I think, for 2 days straight, creating pink tuxedos for every single community member that was asking for one. And it was just this thing that it's an initiative that she did, and it was so beautiful and so fun to see. And everyone was so happy to wear these pink tuxedos, like suiting up for Christie's and in the World of Women style. And yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see. And the one that was actually chosen, 5672, why is that one such a special example of the collection?
I think that the community ended up choosing her because she's a very particular kind of World of Women. First of all, she's wearing a tuxedo, which is a very fancy and quite unique clothing attribute. And she's also a night goddess, which is also the rarest kind of World of Women in the collection. And I think that they went like full on fancy for this one, and they just wanted to choose like the fanciest looking, most special looking wow to represent them, which makes a lot of sense if you ask me. So I think that's why.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're really looking forward to Tuesday and taking part in this. And I'd just like to mention that this is the only NFT that Christie's is selling in our evening sales. It's super important to us, and we're really honored to be presenting it. And the bidding will happen in several different ways. People can bid in the room, in person. They can bid on the phone with Christie's staff, online while watching the sale from your desktop or mobile device. And you can also submit a closed max bid ahead of the auction. So both of your projects have been incredibly successful, but I want to for a second take us back to your pre-NFT life. Maybe Betty, we'll start with you. How were you spending your days then, and what was it like for you prior to NFTs, being a creator?
Before NFTs, I mean, for years I've been in creative production in like an agency setting, doing creative work for companies around the world, mostly in North America, and it's been fun. And we've been very blessed with the clients that we've had, but at the same time, we were always in the background, never listed or anything like that as the creators of anything that we did. And because of the pandemic, like a lot of the jobs that we had were canceled internationally, so we lost a lot. And so we were in a fairly difficult position before I came into the NFT space. So really my days, I've focused a lot on connecting with women and gender diverse people in real life. I would organize mutual aid campaigns and all sorts of things like that to help people in my area, as well as working on what I was doing with psych, and also spending time with my kids. I have 3 kids under 7, so just very busy all the time. But yeah, NFTs came along and it just kind of took our attention entirely. And I just saw this space as like this hopeful chance of, I guess, remedying some of the situations that were going on in the world. It just felt like a very optimistic place, like things kind of going wrong around the world, and then here we've got this space of builders and artists and coders and developers and all kinds of people converging to for one goal, to build this Web3. So it kind of took me completely away from anything I was doing in real life.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, I know you've spoken about how empowering it's been for you and others in your community. Yam, what about you? What were you up to prior to NFTs?
I was a freelancer having a life crisis basically before NFTs. Yeah, I was a freelance digital illustrator and a freelance translator as well. And I was just hustling and trying to, you know, I don't know, like have a normal job, some stability, and it was really hard. It was a hard path, the one that I was doing before NFTs, a lot of ups and downs. Um, but indeed, and I feel very similar to Betty, like NFTs and Web3, it was very interesting to me because of many, many reasons. I just felt valued as a creator in a completely different way than I did before. And I saw a path here that was new and interesting and fresh and full of motivated people. And obviously I wanted to be part of that. So here we are today.
Yeah, I mean, both of you have developed such amazing communities. Can you briefly talk about, how you define community respectively and what that means to your projects?
Yeah, sure. So, well, for World of Women communities, basically everything we keep on saying that you're only as good as your community is, as far as being a Web3 product, because that's what we are. And yeah, the community for us at World of Women is the reason why we're trying to be better every day and deliver the best things that we can, because they keep us motivated. They share the same values as us, and they're rooting for our success and for achieving certain things in this space, for diversity, for women, for minorities. And so I think the community for us is really a source of motivation, a source of pressure as well. It comes hand in hand. But it's really the essence and the core of World of Women. Without them, it wouldn't be World of Women. So that's really what it is for us.
I feel the same way. So community is really just how I define the success of my project. So, as Yam was saying, without them, we don't have anything. They're the ones that drive this. There's this mutual value with brands in Web3 where we have that exchange of the community is providing us value by supporting us and everything that they do, but we're also providing the community value. It's like this kind of circular exchange, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think that being able to form a community that is reflective of the values that we hold is a very powerful thing, especially in a space where we are not represented equally in any way. And maybe the values that we hold do challenge the norms to the point where it can be quite confronting. So I think that the fact that we've been able to do that is a testament to who we are as community builders, because it's actually very challenging to do that and carve that space out. Yeah,
absolutely. And representation is a huge issue, and one that the two of you have both tackled pretty excellently, in my opinion, in both of your projects. When you were creating and launching both of your projects and your brands, when you think about representation, are there particular artistic influences that you were looking towards in creating the aesthetic, or any women creators even that were particularly inspiring to you?
Well, for me, when I was creating the collection, I set up certain guidelines for myself and certain objectives of what I wanted the end result to be. So for me, I wanted to create a base woman that could potentially be any ethnicity, which is, I just didn't want to do an avatar that clearly looked Caucasian and like only a percentage of the population could relate to, because that's completely the opposite of diversity and inclusion. So for me, it was really important that the base character would be inclusive in its own. And then for me, some of the guidelines was also include a variety of skin tones, a very big, large variety of skin tones, so that a lot of different women or all women could identify with one or another. And as far as the attributes in general, like clothing, hairstyles, etc., for me it was important to stay respectful towards all cultures, religious views, political views. I didn't want to include anything that could be complicated or misinterpreted or disrespectful towards anyone. So I kept it super neutral, super clean and just fun. So for me, those were the guidelines, some of the guidelines that I was following when creating the collection, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you've spoken also about how, it cuts off at the shoulders, so you don't know the body type as well.
Yeah, I definitely not want to go down the path of creating body shapes. I mean, like that is, I think that you should be able to imagine what your avatar looks like so that it feels like it's you or someone you appreciate.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we share those values. So, and that's actually something that I respected when you launched. I remember I watched you launch and I was like in awe of what was happening. It was really amazing. And it really encouraged me because prior to that, I didn't really see anyone. I did see people succeeding, but not women that were centering women. It was kind of like a validation for me to continue, I think. So yeah. In terms of the traits in our collection, it was really, I just didn't want any gendered traits. I wanted all of the traits, so all the clothes, all of the hair, all of the accessories and facial features and everything to be completely ambiguous to gender, so that in the generation, like when you put it through the gen, everything that came out could be interpreted, as Yam was saying, you can interpret the avatar in however way you choose. So there's no gender assigned to our avatars, but the holder can assign a gender depending on how they interpret that character. So I think it just allows people that autonomy to be able to represent themselves digitally in a way that they feel connected to, which is a really powerful thing. And yeah, it's a really nice thing to be able to see that people of all genders can find themselves in our collection. It was kind of challenging to do that with zombies, but but it was really fun, and we used all kinds of inspiration for all of our traits, and it was just so fun to explore those together because they come from our personal interests and personal loves. So yeah, it was a really, really awesome process designing the collection.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I mean, you've both done so much for inclusivity in the space. It's really amazing to see. That being said, I read a study at the end of 2021 that said from Gemini that only 25% of crypto holders are women. And I know that there's an even smaller percentage that are actually holders of NFTs. So what do you feel is the biggest obstacle for women who want to get involved in the Web3 space? And what advice do you have for them, either as a creator or a collector?
I think that the biggest hurdle is the real life hurdles. The general society, I think, is broken in that sense. I think that it's an honor to be here today because I feel like this sale is very important for women in general in art. In the auction houses, as you know, it's something crazy like 99% of all the top sales are from men. And that's not because there's no women artists, that's just because they're not being sold. There's no women directors of any of the major galleries in the world. I don't think the Louvre has ever had a female director. Different barriers and access to even finance. Women have typically been completely removed from financial autonomy for many, many years. So for us, it's kind of there is that delay, I guess. There's just so many things. It's such a huge question. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There is a problem that is rooted in our society, and unfortunately, Web3 and NFTs are mimicking that, which is what we're trying to change, right, with our collections. But I think that another issue as well is one that success stories of women and minorities and just diverse people in general are not being put in the spotlight as much as success stories by white men. And second of all, people are not used to betting on women financially, and this is something that has to change. Like, we have to show the world that you can invest in women-led initiatives and in women-created art, and make money out of it. And this is something it's problematic. It's the inside of the heads of people. They've learned that this is how it is, and this is a huge thing that we have to change. And I think it's already beginning with the success of female-led collectible projects, but there's a long way to go.
Definitely.
I think the issue lies as well with collections like Yam's are often relegated to collections for women. And, I don't want to speak on Yam's behalf, but I'm sure she agrees. World of Women is not just for women, it's for everyone. It empowers women and it centers women, but it is for everyone, and everyone should be able to enjoy it as such. So it's kind of like that disconnect for people. When a woman creates something, it's automatically just for women, and I think that that's an issue, because it's like then there is barrier to going to that next level. If a man creates something, it's automatically for everyone to consume. So it's kind of it's a funny thing. I think that, as Yam said, we're on our way, and with bold success stories being pushed to the front, it's uncomfortable for people to see women celebrate their own success. That's something that's often demonized. So yeah, we need to get used to being comfortable with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Double standards up the wazoo in this industry and many others. So in order to better promote equity in this space, what trends are you seeing that you think we need to amplify? And you just touched on a few, that I think a lot of people in this space who are early adopters early on can really cling to and promote in order to help further the inclusion and equity in women and others getting involved in Web3.
I personally think making a sorry, Yam, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's all good.
I was just going to say, I think that making a conscious effort to find artists that you like that are women and gender diverse, and supporting them because you like their art, not just because they're, not just for the social capital of supporting underrepresented artists, because I think that that diversity ticket is too often used for clout in this space. And I think that it's very easy for someone to say, oh, I bought a World of Women because I have a daughter, and that's, I respect women because I have a daughter. That's just not good enough. Buy a World of Women because you love World of Women and you love what they represent and you love what they're bringing to the world, and you love the art. I think that, moving past that, and it is going to be a conscious effort for people to find those artists, because there are less in the space because of the barriers that we've spoken about. But as far as those shill threads and tagging, every single woman artist in NFTs, like, nobody goes through those lists often. So yeah,
agree.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that a trend that I want to see happen is people betting on women and on minorities and on diverse people, because they actually believe that either they're going to make money by doing so, because let's be honest, the NFT space is full of people that just want to make money and that's okay. Or you invest in women and diverse people because you appreciate what they're doing and their efforts or their art or just the brand that they're creating. And so basically at the end it's what Betty said, but in other words, but this is the trend that I want to see, because right now people invest in a man or a name that is usually a man, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, they're super confident. They're like, of course that this is a good option, but I want to see the exact same thing happen for women and for minorities, that people don't have to question themselves like, oh, but should I invest on a woman? Like, there aren't so many successful ones, right? So it's this sick mentality, and I just want that to go away and see.
Yeah.
And I think losing that virtue signaling part as well, like letting the ego drop from it, because if you're buying something from my project or something from Yam's project, just buy it because you like it. Don't buy it because then you can tweet that you've bought something from a woman.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more. Yes. And so conversely, as this market matures, I mean, we talked before that 6 months was years in crypto terms. We're getting into year 2-ish of this, and there are definitely some trends that are starting to emerge as the market matures that are potentially detrimental. So, are there any trends that you might want to highlight that we need to be conscious of as this market expands?
For me, I don't like the. Sorry, Yam.
Sorry,
you go ahead.
We're always talking
go.
at the same time. I think that, I mean, like, it's not like I follow trends that much, okay, that to begin with, but something that I have noticed is that there is people that are using the fact that diversity is needed in this space for their own personal profit, and they don't actually care about the change or anything like that. And when I say that, I mean by, for example, men that pretend to be women and make a project or do an initiative or whatever, and then it's just a rug pull. Like, we're seeing a lot of rug pulls lately, not only in this theme of like women-centered initiatives or diversity, but we're seeing a lot of rug pulls in the past few months. And this is a toxic trend and toxicity that is continuously happening in the space. So that's the only thing I have to point out as of now that I think is extremely toxic.
Yeah, I think the same, like in different words. Recently I saw a collection that was being released, and it was similar in theme to ours, like gender ambiguous and inclusive, and it looked fairly good. But then when researching the people behind the team, like, they had spent a considerable amount of money lobbying against gender diverse people in their rights, and it was clearly just a money-making exercise. So I think that just making sure that you research, there's that do your own research saying that gets thrown around, but really actually do your own research and make sure that you're supporting people that actually care about the issues that they're saying they do, because otherwise, like Yam said, it's just a money-making exercise based off of a trend. And I've seen that, supporting women and gender diversity positioned as a trend, and that's just so offensive because we're not a trend.
No, definitely not. And maybe for some people in our audience that want to do their own research, how, in very briefly, would you recommend a buyer to go about doing that, finding that research?
Honestly, if they're anonymous like I am, it's kind of hard, but going through old tweets, looking who they interact with, looking at their LinkedIn, looking at their past work, reverse searching images on Google is a really big one, because we've seen recently a lot of art is traced. So just really making sure that you're supporting something that's real and true and authentic. There are a few ways, but, also go with your gut. If you don't feel like something's right, then, chances are it might not be. So just always stay within your limits of comfort and when you're interacting, I guess, in the NFT space.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So very helpful and practical advice. And Betty, and you've also been outspoken about the need for greater accessibility at the initial minting phase of projects. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, I think that we've spoken about how it was only 6 months ago that or so that Yam and I launched, and Yam will probably remember back then the minting prices were way lower, and I think that since then it's kind of increasing at a really great speed, so that when people now are minting new projects, we've got people entering the NFT space and minting these brand new projects with anonymous teams with no track record, straight out the gate at like 0.15 and 0.25. And I think that that's just wild to me, because it's such a huge risk for people. And, when there are rug pulls, it's massive, it's a huge loss, and then we'll lose people from the space. So yeah, I think that new projects, it doesn't always fit into this category, because some new projects are established and already have a lot of the value that they say they're going to bring, but just, I guess, encouraging people to believe in the power of their secondary sales to power what they're going to be doing and their roadmap, rather than having the community take that risk on by the initial mint, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And just for some of the intro people in our audience, and we're talking in Ethereum, we say 0.1, 0.15, that's the price that a collector pays in order to mint or create a new work from a collection, from a primary sale directly from the creator. Great. So Yam, at Christie's, we are obviously incredibly excited to be presenting the world of women NFT alongside other very extraordinary artworks in our 21st century sale. So can you talk a little bit about what the world of women being placed within an evening sale context means to you in the community?
Well, it will be very boring just to say that it means everything, even though it's true. It really means everything to us. But really, this is a historical moment for many reasons. It's a historical moment for World of Women, for the community, for the NFT space. It's not the first time, but it is a historical moment for women-led projects and for art that has been created by a woman. But I just feel that it is. I am very honored as the artist of the project, because it's, first of all, digital art that is going to be auctioned at Christie's, which is a historical institution. And that's already fantastic, but it's also digital art created by a woman, and it's also digital art that happens to be an NFT, which is part of this ecosystem of Web3 that is so new and so intriguing and so full of possibilities. So for me, I'm really honored that a piece of art like that is auctioned in such a place. It really feels like we're saying something, by having it there. And I think it means a lot to all the women that are in the space as well, because we're kind of showing, that this is possible, and that that it's happening. So it's a reality, and basically you can be what you can see, and it's I don't know, it's really emotional. Like it's been very emotional for all of us in the team and in the community because of all of these reasons. We're extremely excited.
Yeah, that's
I think
great.
as you say that, Yam, just from me as a woman that's obviously come up in the same space as you, and in parallel, to see you dominate and be so successful in the digital world, but then have that bridge over to the real world and to this, really prestigious platform that is, again, dominated by men. It's like you taking up space and proving that it can be done. And yeah, it is really powerful. You're opening doors for people, and it really gives permission to other people to strive for the same thing. So well done.
Thank you, Betty. That is the intention. That's how I feel. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great. So your successes, both of your amazing successes, are showing a generation of artists that creative pursuits can seriously generate value, both personally and financially, as opposed to, we just heard you earlier talk about your pre-NFT lives. It's really remarkable to hear how you speak about it. Can you talk a little bit to our audience about what what this value generation has meant for you, and what that really means for you going forward?
This is insane for me. This is maybe the biggest thing, and I always get emotional talking about it, so I apologize if I cry. But I have three young daughters, and my husband and I are both creative and have always been creative. We were raised by creatives. My husband's family are artists, and my family are musicians. And it has been raised in those environments. Obviously, we were always taught to value creativity, but that creativity isn't necessarily valued back. But we do it anyway. So we have spent, all of our lives being creative and following those pursuits, but never really being valued, and kind of always accepting that we wouldn't be. And so to be able to prove and lead by example to my daughters, who are also very creative and expressive, that you can be valued in the real world for this. It is as important as anything else, and it brings so much to the world culturally. And just that to me is worth more than any of the financial gain or otherwise ever at all. To be able to encourage my children and to be an example of what can be done. Even my friends' kids, some of them are looking at NFTs now, and I'm kind of helping them navigate. It's just like, honestly, a dream. It's so cliche, but it's a dream come true. And it's kind of changed my life and all of my extended family's life as well.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, thank you for sharing. It really changes and creates an opportunity to gain respect in a field that not so often did we find that, in my opinion. So Yam, I know you've also spoken about how you want World of Women to be more than a collectibles project, to be a brand. I know you recently announced a partnership with Hello Sunshine. Congrats on that. Can you talk to us a little bit about your vision for the World of Women brand and how you want consumers to interact with it in the future?
Well, as a brand, what we want to do is that we want to give our consumers access to high quality products in a setting that is quite exclusive, but reachable. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we provide opportunities and products that are accessible and that anyone could get, and that are not extremely pricey or too luxurious. We want to do a mix of both, so that we keep people excited, but at the same time we make them feel welcomed and included, and it's not too hard to get in or to be part of World of Women somehow. So this is really the direction we're going towards, while also continuing the work that we're constantly doing with on our philanthropic side and in our licensing partnerships and such, like, for example, Hello Sunshine. So that's more or less in a nutshell, in a very vague way, what we're going to do, just because I can't reveal any specifics of what is being talked about. But I hope that gives you an idea a little bit.
Yeah, excellent. I'm really excited to see what comes next. Betty, as much as you can reveal, what do you think we can expect from your projects going forward?
Yeah, in a similar way, I think that my focus is really evolving DeadFellaz as a brand and a pillar of pop culture. So rather than being an NFT collection, we're very much a brand born of NFTs. So that, like Yam said, if you wanted to be part of the DeadFellaz world in various different ways, then you can be. I want to bring value to people, and the values that we hold in our collection through these different endeavors that we do, and just keep people excited by doing things that we personally are very excited about. So I also can't talk about anything specific, because my life is basically NDA to NDA at this point. But it's all exciting stuff, and yeah, I'm cheering for Yam and Hello Sunshine, and yeah, it's just super awesome. I love seeing how this is evolving, because we're really kind of at the front of a wave, so we don't really know where it's going, but I think that's exciting to be experiencing it with other people and other creators like this.
So exciting, so excited. Can't wait for what's to come. Okay, well, thank you both so much. I'm going to move to some audience Q&A. We're already getting several. So just a reminder, again, if you do want to ask a question, please just put it in the Q&A in the box. It'll be anonymous, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. Okay, first one. DeadFellaz was founded in August 2021 and World of Women in July 2021. What was the creative process like in the buildup of the launches? How long did it take to launch the projects, and what were the surprising moments, either good or bad, during the launches?
Okay, so this is a question for both of us. Cool. Well, it takes a lot of time. We started working on World of Women like 2 months before we launched, which does not sound like a lot of time for people that are not familiar with the NFT space and Web3, but it is a lot of time because it's 2 months of working 24/7, 7 days a week. And it's not such an easy path because it's also a very new world. There's a lot of things to have into account. There's a lot of novelty. There's a lot of trying things out and seeing if it works out because, you know, especially at the time, like, I feel like ways of launching an NFT project are changing like every single week. Like what we did that made our project work, I don't think would necessarily be what makes a project work right now today, just because the space is so always ever evolving. And wow, I lost my thread of thought. What was the thread of thought? What was the second part of the question? Some exciting moments in the launch?
Yeah,
okay.
Good, bad, the ugly.
I think, okay, one of the most exciting moments before we sold out was seeing everything finished and done and being like, okay, good, it's done. Like, it's working, it's done. We've done all the tests, we've run all the things that we had to run on the technical sites to make sure that it's going smoothly. The second exciting thing was selling out and seeing that the minting process was a success and it was painless, because at the time, a lot of projects that were minting had terrible minting processes and people were losing lots of money on gas. Minting buttons were not working. There were failed transactions. So we were super excited to see that none of that happened. And the third exciting moment would be when we saw how motivated, united, and, you know, vocal our community was becoming from the very, very beginning. So that is that for me.
Yeah, I think that that reflection on the work prior to the launch, I don't think people realize quite the intensity of it. It was a similar thing for us, and because we were also in lockdown with our kids and we were working, we really had to just work as hard as we possibly could, and it was super unhealthy, and I can't encourage other people to do this, but we would get up at 6 in the morning and then we would basically work all the way through until like 2 or 3 the next morning, go to sleep for a few hours, and then get back up and do it all again. And that was a really long time. And it was, you know, there were hard parts and there were really fun parts. And it was just a really, really, really big effort. And the launch was so fun, so thrilling. We held ours at 2 a.m. Our time because we're in Australia, and most of the people, especially back then, were in the Northern Hemisphere. So we chose a time that would benefit them. And it was just wild. Like Yam said as well, like the launch process back then was not so smooth. People were getting completely wrecked in gas wars, and gas wars is when there's a lot of traffic and the gas prices spike, so people end up losing a lot of money on gas and then can't afford the NFT, or you know, their transactions fail. And anyway, so there was a lot of that back then, but it didn't happen for us either. And it was just a really smooth process and so relieving and so wonderful to see in real time the collection selling out, but also meeting our characters for the first time. Like, because when it's generative, of course we did lots and lots of tests, but like to see what was minted and to meet that and to see other people's reaction to it was just so amazing. It was just so cool.
It's amazing. Amazing. Okay. Only 16% of NFTs in the market are by women artists. How can we help educate and outreach to these female artists, young or old, who don't know much about NFTs, to tap into the space and create their own collection to increase the female presence in the market? So how are we going about educating? What are some tools that we can educate creators?
So I think that there's many layers to this. I think that as a personal thing, you can, if you're in the space and you know the space, you can work on helping the women in your life enter the space as well, which is something that I do constantly. So like all of my friends are in here now and selling their work, and that's really cool. But then there's structural things that you can do. You know, if you're a person with a platform, making sure that you're amplifying people that need to be amplified, changing your systems so that they reflect a more equitable space. If you are someone with a lot of resources, you know, throwing those resources behind education initiatives. There's lots of things that you can be doing with organizations like coding schools for girls and, you know, all sorts of things like that, providing equipment for people that want to maybe create digital art but can't afford the equipment. Like there's lots of different things, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's see. How are you finding that established companies or established brands reaching out to collaborate with you are handling those conversations? Do you find it's mostly about the popularity of your brand, or are they considering the gender significance of your brand and leaders?
I'm interested to hear, yeah.
I mean, when a big brand reaches out to you or to us, of course that they reach out because of certain basic reasons, like you're a popular brand, you're doing well. That's obvious, right? But a lot of brands are also reaching out because they just share the same message as you do or your project does, because they want the same things. Because they want to show those values to their community, or they want to do a switch in the way that they're doing things. Brands also reach out because they find Web3 extremely interesting, and they find it to be a completely new and fresh way for them to build a new community. And yeah, I think those are probably the main reasons of why a brand would reach out to a collection or a Web3 brand like World of Women or anyone really. Like those, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think about more reasons, but I think those are the most basic ones. Yes, you're doing well. What is your message? What are your values? And can I like get involved with that? Can I get my community involved? Can I help spread the message? I think those are the most relevant things, yeah.
I think that it can be difficult for people to navigate because you know we have to be so discerning with how we align ourselves with brands that do reach out, because you know, I'm sure Yam would have experienced the same thing. Like the interest from the outside world and from established brands is huge, but there are many reasons why they would want to be involved, and one of them is definitely having a safe way to dip their toe into the industry without taking on any of the risk is a big one for a lot of them. So, you know, that might not be a good fit. So it's funny to try and figure out where to say no, where to say yes, how that aligns with the brand that we have already established, and that mutual value exchange as well, because I think that inherently a lot of these brands don't really understand that form of relationship. It's very, very different to how business is done in Web2 and in traditional corporations. So it's a bit of a spin on that. It's hard, I think, for a lot of brands, but yeah, I think for the people that get it, it's great.
Yeah, that's great. Now there are a lot of NFT projects syncing up with brands these days, so it's very interesting to hear both of your thoughts on that. That's great. Okay, let's see. Hi there. I am a queer diasporic woman of color who is currently working on an NFT project. What are your thoughts on being a woman in this space? Are there pros, cons, and what safety looks like? And how do you think women-led NFT projects can better support each other?
I actually think that people that call for the complete doxing of founders, especially when those founders have identities that intersect in ways that might bring them, you know, not a safe situation. I think that leaning into digital identity is a way to carve out safety in those spaces and navigate them in a way that, you know, with minimal risk personally. And I think that that's something that we should be accepting a little bit more. I think that as someone that wants to create a project, I think that if you're creating something that you're passionate about and that represents you, it's a very powerful thing, because there's going to be other people that really, really want that representation as well. And they're going to be so thrilled to see you doing that. And you are going to validate them to enter the space. And so it snowballs. I think that, yeah, bringing things that you want to see in the world and then supporting that when you see them, like, you know, people supporting Yam and people supporting me, we then support other people. I think it just needs to go on like that, not to be threatened by other women in the space, because again, I think that's the social construct meant and designed to keep us down, not necessarily instigated by women and gender diverse people ourselves. So yeah, just challenging that and keeping that going. I hope that makes sense. It felt like I rambled.
No, absolutely. And I completely agree with you. I just think that, you know, the number one thing is not to be afraid of what you want to share with the world, because if you have a very specific idea of what you want to do, what matters to you, what's important to you, and what you think is needed in this specific space that you're in. Now we're talking about Web3, right? I think you shouldn't be afraid of doing something different as well, because many times what we do is that we look around us and we see what is working, and so we want to mimic that, or we want to go the safe way and do this. But if you're not passionate by that, even if it's the safe way, don't go for it. Go with your passion, go with what you really believe in, and fight for it. Because if you put an idea out there that you truly believe in and that is your passion, and you execute it well and you put it out there constantly, people are going to realize that this is coming from a place of passion, and there will be people that will be there to back it up. So I think that it's really about being true to yourself, to your product, to what you want to do, and to your values, and not giving up from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that also that when you're working on these projects, like there's moments that are so difficult and so full of pressure and are so hard to get through these moments. But it's, if you are very passionate about it, it really helps you push through because you have that driving factor. Whereas if you don't really care about it and it's just something that you're doing because you see it working, you're really just going to lose that drive and that momentum to get through those hard parts.
Yeah, that's great. I think we have time for maybe one or two more. Let's see. What are some of your advice on how projects can actionize their communities towards driving social action towards issues and causes that can better the world?
For me, I think that it's, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Betty. We have the same timing.
You know, I think as well, I swear when I see panels of men, they just speak over each other. And then when there's panels of women, we're always giving space to one another. I think that doing it from the start, so having that as something that's woven into the fabric of your collection from the beginning, and having that as a value that forms that foundation, and just continuing to align with things that that build on that. I think that it is a very cool and powerful aspect of what we have here. We, a lot of people do crowdfunding and Kickstarters and, GoFundMes and that sort of thing, whereas we have this immediate tap into a community that shares our values in many cases. So it can be a really powerful tool for change, for sure.
Yeah, well, I know this is cliche, but I was going to say something similar. So I'm not going to take the last minutes that we have to repeat literally what you just said. But indeed, like putting the values there from the beginning, it will end up being part of your community. So voila, that's it.
Okay, and the last question I think is very, very short. We very much loved hearing you. Where can we see you next or hear you next? Anything upcoming that our audience can follow you?
Gosh, I cannot say exactly what's coming next, but I mean, yeah, you can see me next week somewhere for sure in the US. And then I don't know, Twitter, I'm around Twitter sometimes, tweeting here and there, doing interviews here and there.
Yeah, same. I'm just on podcasts all the time, and I will be at real life events later in the year, depending on the situation with travel in the world. It's kind of hard in Australia, but yeah, I hope to be at NFT NYC. So that will be fun to meet people.
Oh, cool. I'll be in NFT NYC too, and in VCon. Gosh, I forgot all those things, but I'll be in VCon in May.
So many things, yes. Excellent.
Sorry.
Well, Christie looks forward to seeing you guys at all of those events as well. And thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us. We're really excited about the sale on Tuesday night in London. And thank you so much. This will be recorded and available on YouTube for anyone who missed it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.